Celtics Talk Podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com. 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? A very special episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast. The NBA coming back to NBC, and our very special guest is about to be a very busy man, Mike Tirico. Welcome.
It's good to be here, guys. Great to be with both of you. Great to have the city behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't beat it.
I'm just going to tell you, so Drew wasn't exactly knocking down my door to be on the podcast.
Right.
But as soon as he heard Mike Tirico, all of a sudden someone wants to be on the pod.
Drew isn't with you all the time on this?
No. Well, I'm actually furious that I have to be here because Mike is taking my job for a night, and now I have to sit next to him for this. I know I'm closer to you right now, Chris, but still.
I'm borrowing for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
sure,
you've been awesome,
okay.
so thank you.
And hey, we don't have any bells for you to ring and almost miss, Mike.
like in Philadelphia on Monday. Yeah, that's fine.
No,
but
it's great to have you here.
It's great to be here, and knowing that I get the chance to work with Scal, I've tried to get mentally prepared. So
good luck.
I packed one tie for the trip, so I didn't have to wear one tonight. I went with my nicest dress shirt. I went with a little Drew half zip.
Hang on a second.
You pull the half zip off everywhere.
Thank you.
Cleveland game last Friday. I think you went like.
I went all black.
All black,
and it looked like it was going to be the Cavs' funeral at the start of the game.
It did.
And then it was the Celtics. But can I give you some advice for the Celtics broadcast?
Yes.
Lose the jacket.
Lose the jacket.
And
too?
if you have any T-shirts, you could swap out the collared shirt for that and just go T-shirt quarter zip. That could be good.
But I do like the relaxed broadcast. It just, one, for us, it's great because you're just relaxed, you're chill. But even for the viewers, like you walk into a building, and Collinsworth and I talk about this all the time. You walk into a football game and you go, okay, I've got a nice suit, I've got a tie, it's Sunday Night Football. We're the only people in the damn place wearing a tie and a jacket.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got a jersey, a sweater, a quarter zip. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. So who decided that a tie and a jacket is the way to do a game for a broadcaster?
Let's get rid of the tie. Right? Here's the
Oh, hey, look at you. Look at you. Good.
If you could wear a jersey, who would you pick?
Ooh. Pritchard. That's my guy, but it wouldn't say Pritchard on the back. It would say Pritch, please. Or better have my money or something like that.
I would pick Robert Williams, but obviously.
Your boy, he's out tonight, isn't he?
Yeah, thanks for noticing.
Didn't make the trip either.
He did not. He went home. He has another knee sprain, and we wish him well.
Well, if we need any updates, we can just ask the voice of the Blazers, Mike Tirico. I mean,
2 Blazers games.
How'd you end up with 2 Portland games? Just coincidence? Or?
Well, once we figured out that this was going to work and get the opportunity to do a couple of games to try to get back after 9 years of not doing this, kind of worked out well. That Portland was Philly and Boston, where there are 2 NBC Sports regional networks. So instead of preparing for 4 teams, prepare for 3.
Bingo.
As you well know.
Oh, yes.
Nothing's better than when you can see another team for the second time.
That's
and it's just to replace some stats and rinse and repeat. But it's been fun. It's helped me remind myself of how much the league has changed in 9 years. Now, 9 years feels like a long time, but as you start looking at the league and realize so many players and the style of play and all the things that are different, it's been a little bit of candidly, a wake-up call to what you're going to have to watch, prepare for, and that's why I'm using these couple of months to get up to speed on the NBA before next October.
What is the most jarring so far? I mean, like you said, 9 years, but the players have all turned over.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about preparing?
So what I noticed is style and pace of the game, right? The game goes, so you have less time to make it a conversational game because the ball's up and we're taking a 3 or it's transition to get that 2 back. And just in watching the game, and I watched, but once I knew I didn't have to work the game, and Drew knows this, you watch as a fan. Like, I love watching baseball because I don't need to remember a thing. I don't need to know anybody's WAR, anybody's, all the new stats of baseball, right? I can just sit there and go, these umpires are brutal, right? And just let your hair down as a fan. So that's really what I did with the NBA for a while. I know you watch the national games. I live in Michigan, so I'd watch the Pistons, but they weren't very good, so you didn't do a lot of watching of that. And then as the playoffs come, your viewership kind of ramps up. And playoff basketball is less up and down, less threes, the half-court game, the defense, the matchups, the changes to set plays game to game, that comes back into play. So it's not really the regular season. So for me, that's been the big difference.
Yeah, well, I noticed, this is only my second year doing it, so I quickly learned that when the ball is in play in a half-court set, even if there's 20 seconds on the shot clock, you don't have enough time to get in that story, get in that stat you want.
Yes.
Especially following a guy like our Mike Gorman, who was very understated, very minimal. It's one of the best things he did was you could feel like you're at the game because he's not talking at you the entire time. The best thing to do is just either call the play or just let it speak for itself.
And it's funny because I was being asked by a writer in Philly and then Chad Finn, who works at the Boston Globe, just about basketball and doing games in Boston. And I said to Chad, and it was just not making idle conversation, but not planned, Mike is one of my great influences in calling games because when I was getting ready to go to college, Syracuse, like Drew, I was a big Big East fan. The Big East, hard to believe, Big East was only 4 or 5 years old at that point, right? Because the league started in 79, 80. And the Big East game of the week was one of the few things you got on TV every Saturday afternoon. And every Saturday afternoon was Mike Gorman and Ronnie Perry. And I just loved those games. And as I started broadcasting 3-4 years later, come to figure out and notice like the stylistic influences for me were Mike and Marv Albert growing up in New York. So Mike has been an influence on me, and then doing a whole bunch of games here over the years and getting to meet and know Mike and his wife Terry. Mike's just, he's the best. He's so good.
Have you thought about what it's going to be like working with Scal? How you're going to have the energy? Are you ready for that? Like we had to put Drew through a training camp.
We had a 2.5-hour therapy session, I would call it.
We did. Yeah. And I've watched and I've prepared, and you know, it's just like those pilots. I'm just going to like put my head down and just go, and just not really worry about it. Here's what I love. And I've said, can I embarrass Drew?
Sure.
For like 15 seconds?
Why are you asking Chris? Yes, you can embarrass me.
What are you going to say? No? Celtics broadcast. Look, New England is one of the great provincial areas for sports. It's our team. You're an outsider. Get the heck out of here, right? It's our guys. It's our team. We can be hard on the team. You can't be, right? And that's one of the great qualities of Northeast sports, New York, Philadelphia, Boston. It's all the same, but in different ways. But everything in New England has always been so provincial and so passionate about our teams. And Mike and Tommy were legendary because they were our guys, and there was a style to that game. That local broadcast did not sound like the other 29, right? What you, Drew, and Scal have done is you've created that in a very different way, for a different era and a different generation, but kind of in the spirit of what Mike and Tommy had. And it's fun. Like, I listen to the game and I laugh. I laugh out loud. I smile. I can tell you guys and Abby, you're all having a great time, right? And that's what this is. Like, look, when the game gets good, we all know that's the focus. But it's 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we're asking people to not put on Netflix or Peacock, I should have said.
There you go.
We're asking you to just to hang with us and watch a sporting event, maybe game 53 of the regular season. So the broadcast has to understand we got a little entertainment part of this too, and you guys have hit that and crushed it. So bravo to you for doing that.
All right, thank you,
Because
Mike.
with two legends, that's hard. So I hope I embarrassed you well enough in front of these people.
Thank you, Mike. That's very kind. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? I think you hear it a lot in broadcasting. People say they want it to be like you're hanging out at a bar or like on your couch. And I think a lot of the time that's a little bit overblown because, like, I don't want the morons in their living room if they don't know what they're talking about. Like, all right, let me watch in peace. But I think there's more of an element of that in the local broadcast than in the national. Because if you think about it, you are letting those people into your living room, 70 times a night, 82 potentially, a couple first-round games as well.
Sure.
It's really important. I think people need to feel like they know us. And I think Scal has always done a great job with that, and he's really taken me under his wing in that respect. And Scal is really smart, and I think sees the game on like a savant level. I mean, to make it in the NBA as a guy like Brian Scalabrine, who will tell you he's not the most athletic dude. He didn't make it because he can run and jump higher than anybody else. You have to see the game on a really deep level. He does a great job of explaining that to people.
And I think that's the important thing. If I'm sitting at home, can you make me understand what I'm watching better? Can you tell me the why in addition to the what all the time? And that's such a cool combo. And what you said is really cool. The local broadcast is different from the national broadcast. That's what's fun for me. In all my years of doing games after leaving Syracuse and doing college radio, so from 1989 on, I've never been the home broadcaster for a game until I did the Philly game Monday night on NBC Sports Philadelphia. and tonight. So I'm hopeful. I couldn't do it because the Sixers were terrible the other night. Like I would like to say we once. I've never been able to do that on the air talking about a team, so it's fun.
I think you need to get a we and a Tommy point in there at some
I know.
point.
Hey,
you know?
I got a lot of things in my back pocket here.
I don't want to give it away.
Okay.
What has changed? You mentioned 9 years ago it's different. Did you think you ever mentioned offensive rating, defensive rating, any of that stuff back in the day?
No, all of those things are different. And it's one of the things I've been asking myself on a national level. Do viewers understand that? Are you talking over their head? There's a very fine line to bring analytics into a broadcast because there's a generation that didn't get it, doesn't know it. And when you are on a network like an NBC, where there'll be primetime games on a Sunday night and every Tuesday night during the season, there's going to be a national NBA game. Do those casual viewers know that? So, or do you have to figure out a way to say that means number of points per 100? You have to come up with the explainers. We did football with John Gruden at ESPN, and one of the great coaching terms for football is a 3 technique. Like, my mom doesn't know what a 3 technique is. So John, like a robot, would say, 3 technique, that's the guy who lines up on the outside shoulder of the guard every single time. So you have to understand the audience. Know your audience is one of the essentials of our business. So that's changed. I'll tell you what has changed is truly just the style of play, right? So I got to think when people ask, the league has problems, too many threes, all that stuff. I go, well, wait a minute. When NBC lost the deal and ESPN took over, I was the host of the games and did Friday nights. So that was in 2002, 2003. We're doing the Eastern Conference Finals our first year, Pacers and the New Jersey Nets at that time. And the halftime score was 39-35. So say, okay, maybe 124 to 120 late in the fourth might indicate that the game has a few too many threes. But I don't want to go back to the rock fight that is 39-35, right?
Right.
So you think of those Pistons teams, those Pacers teams, the early 2000s teams, that wasn't entertaining. This is entertaining, and this is skill. And I think, Chris, if there's like a big picture, the basketball players themselves, the depth of the really good players is so much better. Now, does that mean the game is played better? At times, yes, but not always, right? AAU, not playing on college teams, lack of IQ, of understanding of the game situations with young players, that shows itself. But the quality of the athletes, God, so much better in terms of the depth of the league now.
It's off the charts. I mean, think of your favorite team in the NBA, the Portland Trail Blazers. They are not going to make the playoffs, I mean, barring something surprising. And all the talent they have on that group. Right. Shaedon Sharpe, who's one of the most electrifying athletes in the NBA. Rob Williams.
Thank you.
Shout out. Forsberg's favorite player when he was in Boston.
I could tell you.
I really hitched my wagon to him and then just coldly dealt. But they brought a title, so.
Sometimes the wagon leaves town. And you got to make a decision. Do you follow
Sometimes
along
the wagon's supposed to come back, but then he hurt his knee again.
I know.
It's okay. He'll be back. He'll be back. But they've got a ton of talent. And they're, a bottom 10 team in the NBA. I feel like that has not always been the case.
Right, and you're exactly right. And the depth of their talent. So you go, wait a minute, this guy can play? Duop Reith comes off the bench and he's hitting threes and defending. Like, wait a minute, this guy's buried on the Portland bench?
Yeah.
20 years ago, he would have been this raw diamond talent who we're working into the rotation. So basketball is being played around the world. The players from around the world are coming here. There's more good basketball being played in the U.S. with individual skill, because guys are developing that skill. And the ability of bigs to come out has changed the game so much and opened the game up. And, now if you have a big who can't shoot threes, like it's hard to find a place. Like a guy for Portland who's fascinating is Donovan Clingan, who New England fans saw with UConn win back-to-back championships. Like, is there a place for that guy? Well, he's developing more of an outside shot. It's not there to be reliable, but now you got 7-2 guys taking a three. Like, oh, that's okay. Right?
Yeah.
That has totally changed, even from 2015 and 16 to now.
I do think you're seeing the pendulum kind of swing back to where you can play 2 bigs at the same time.
Yes.
We'll play some guys tonight, Luke Cornett and Amish Queta, who do not shoot at all.
Right.
And
Luke can shoot.
The interesting thing is Luke has the NCAA record for threes by a 7-footer from when he was at Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And when he first got in the NBA, he shot a ton of threes. That was his game. He was a stretch 5. He doesn't shoot any anymore because
He's
The
learned.
Celtics don't really need him to.
Right, there are a couple guys here who can.
Yeah,
right.
right. And he'll run that baseline and that low dunker spot. You're going to hear that.
Yep.
Take a shot every time you hear that.
Low dunker spot.
Tonight. Yeah.
I'm going to try to squeeze in low dunker spot before scout.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good,
Gotta
luck.
rattle him.
Good luck. But you'll see that from the Celtics, and he'll talk about, he doesn't think the 5 out is the best way to space it. You want to have one person running on that baseline, it's just amazing to see how quickly the NBA evolves.
Yes.
And how
Yes.
one team does it. Like, look at Cleveland. They're so good with the double big. Oklahoma City has the 2 bigs. 2 best teams in the NBA right now.
But that's sports, right?
Yeah.
You think about when in the NFL, Kansas City was having their success with Mahomes. They were playing a type of football that was getting the ball down the field with speed and Tyreek Hill. And then the adjustment was we're going to play 2 safeties, and we're going to make you go 10, 11, 12 plays down the field. So now that has changed roster construction. And guess what? Philadelphia went to get Saquon Barkley because we have 2 safeties in the back, one guy who's not there to stop the run, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl because Saquon Barkley had a great year behind a good offensive line. So sports and football and basketball, they all adjust and change, and it's evolutionary in a positive way when you can play those 2 bigs and now play them in a high-low, the way the 4 and 5 of the old days would play. I think positionless basketball is more fun to watch. Yeah. It leads to unpredictability, and it leads to mismatches at times, and can you exploit them? And that's the fun of watching sports. Let me watch you against you and see who wins. And now you can see that, I think, a lot more than you did in the past.
You'll see Derek White float to like the center spot tonight.
Right.
The Celtics lean into that.
Are you ready to enter the realm of affordable luxury? Drew Carter here with 24 Infinity of Plymouth, where performance comes for less.
Right now, lock in 2.9% APR financing for 60 months on a new Infinity QX80 Lux.
Ready to trade and upgrade? You'll get top dollar for your trade. Visit 24 Infinity of Plymouth at 151 Samoset Street and online at 24infinityofplymouth.com.
I do want your 10,000-foot view on the Celtics. I should ask you this after tonight's game, but what do you think of this team from afar?
No, I watch Drew a lot. He makes me watch. It's his
do you bully this man?
His price of friendship. No. Man, the hardest thing to do in sports is to win a title and come back and do it again, right? In this era of sports with free agency, injury, all that stuff, right? It becomes very hard to repeat. I think it's always a fascinating study for me to watch championship level teams go through the regular season because they know, whether it's in the back of their mind or the front of their mind, that there's a turn of the calendar that means you got to kick it into that gear and championship level gear, right? So this Celtics team can beat anybody in any gym on any night. Question is, can you get to the start point of the playoffs healthy enough, right? So you only have a few teams that live in that space. So this is one of them, and they have shown those signs along the way. And if you asked 2 weeks ago, before the Cleveland game, or at 25-3 in the Cleveland game, like, okay, Celtics going to win the East, right? That's a long way. I mean, Memorial Day, think about the weather when it's the Eastern Conference Championship, right? That's a long way from the gray behind us right now, right? So how do you get through these 8-10 weeks to get there? It's a long haul. They absolutely have everything it takes. The Cleveland double-digit leads aside, right? Most of the guys who will take the floor for the Celtics, if let's say Celtics-Cleveland is the East Final, most of those guys have been on that stage and then the bigger one and succeeded. Very few of the Cleveland guys have, right? So we don't know if they're ready for They might be. We've seen 6 different champs in the last 6 years, so there have been teams that are like, they're not ready, but they have been ready. So can they beat everybody in the East in a series? Absolutely. Can they win a playoff game in Cleveland because they likely won't have home court? 1,000%, of course they can. But Cleveland can come win here too. So they're as good as anybody in the East, if not the best in the East. I mean, people have these, arguments on morning TV, yelling at each other for hours. Nobody knows. Stop it. Nobody really knows just yet, but this is as good as any team in the East. And yes, they can go beat Oklahoma City or Denver, as you saw on Sunday. So yes, this team is health willing, just as good as anybody in the league, and has just as much a chance to put banner 19 up as they did in October.
I actually have one for
you
both.
guys are the basketball experts, so you tell me if I'm
I have one for both of you.
Lost. Okay.
Should we make Player A Tatum's nickname?
Yeah,
I love that.
Isn't it
Player
great?
A
I heard that. That's
it's
really
a terrific nickname because we've been searching. We've been searching for a while.
The anomaly didn't work.
No, but the anomaly did trigger, and I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, a real renaissance with NBA nicknames. Like Bam Adebayo is the onomatopoeia now, apparently.
That's good.
Yeah, there are a lot of those great ones
Good,
you'll
really
see
good
on social
nicknames.
media. Yeah, and the anomaly, because it started, and some Celtics fans tried to make it happen. It's like Fetch and Mean Girls. Like, stop trying to make the anomaly happen. It's not going to happen.
It has to happen naturally.
But I think Player A is pretty
Because
good. I like
it was organic. It was
Yeah.
like Tatum trying to describe his place in the league, which has been the dominant conversation up here about, he's the face of the league and blah, blah, blah. But the fact that he sort of leaned into it and said, if you just put me down as Player A, and it's so perfect. So I need both of you guys as the voices of the NBA and the Celtics to make this happen. I got this podcast. Look, I'm begging people to listen, but you guys have a stage.
I could dump it out there for one night, but it's up to Carter to carry it. And if it sticks through the playoffs, if Ian and Kevin Harlan and Mike Breen and Brian Anderson, if those guys start using it, then it'll be taken care of in October. I won't have this burden. So
I'm starting with my guy.
It's all on Drew.
I can okay, too much pressure. Yeah. I can guarantee, though, that Ian Eagle has seen that nickname. He's seen Player A, because Ian Eagle, I know, Ian, you have a burner account on Twitter. I know it. You can't find Ian, but I know he's on there. Yeah.
I can't confirm that. The conversation around Tatum and what he is it's like wasted energy, right? It's a great fuel for fan conversation, sports talk, debate, all of that. The guy's great. He's not good, he's great. And he does things that other people haven't done, don't do, and won't do in the next year or two. He is that good. The fact that there's somebody else who's willing to take big shots and big moments on this team and can ride shotgun, that's great. Remember, we used to live in the Big Three era. Mm-hmm. And now maybe because of all the threes, positionless basketball, maybe from a financial standpoint, Big Two plus good around is better than, a lot of teams have spent a lot of energy. Think of Phoenix chasing a Big Three.
Philly this year.
You
just saw him, yeah.
It doesn't necessarily work. So Player A is great. I love the fact that if it's a nickname the player embraces, then it kind of gives it a little fuel. So.
Well, the best thing is he came up with it,
right.
but it was organic.
Right.
It wasn't like
he was trying.
Everybody call me this. It was, this is the nature of the situation. And I think we should all just run with it. I think we finally found the Jason Tatum nickname.
Finally.
No, not we. He found it.
He found it.
He found it,
Thank
which
you,
is
Jason.
good because that's Purell. That keeps your hands clean.
Yes.
It's not my nickname. He gave himself a nickname. So you're good.
By the way, I think Jason Tatum, I'm pretty sure, was in high school the last time you called an NBA game, right? Or was he at Duke, maybe?
9 years, so 7, 8. It was end of high school. So probably in St. Louis.
He's 19, so he would have been 10.
Oh, my God. Stop.
He was in elementary school, actually. That's a good call.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Last thing.
Yes.
What's your memories of this building? Do you remember Big Three era, or is it, you were telling us about calling a game at the Old Garden? Like, what goes through your mind as you come back?
Yeah, old enough to have done a radio game in the Old Garden. We both worked at the same college radio station, WAER, broadcast a Syracuse BC basketball game in here, in the Old Garden, up where Johnny would sit on that perch looking down. And Drew can understand this. When you're in college, you're trying to make sure you have a great tape so you can send it out. That's how we get hired. It's not, this is pre-LinkedIn days, okay? So you want to make sure you had a good broadcast and people could hear it. So when you sat up there in the Old Garden, you could see the ball going in the basket before the crowd reacted. So it sounded like you were a really good play-by-play guy. So that was one of the great halves of basketball I ever called in my life. Was in the Old Garden. But man, the new Garden just how new is it, right? From all those Celtics teams in the Big Three era. I was saying before when I came in, it just brings back memories of early Sunday mornings in Boston because Mike Breen and Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson were the number 1 team on ABC, and I was with Hall of Famer Hubie Brown on the number 2 team. They followed LeBron, Mike Breen's team, a lot. So whether it was Cleveland or Miami or LA, they were a lot of the 3:30 games. So we did a lot of 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon games here in Boston, and there was so many great days. And the Celtics-Lakers final I called on radio with Hubie, and just watching that game 1 after the long stretch of no Celtics-Lakers finals, Laker greats and Celtic greats just walking past our spot, just like, oh my God, pinch me. Like, am I really here? There's so many cool, I mean, I don't mean to do this to Bruins fans, but I remember being here for Game 7 of the Cup final, and one of those, everybody's ready for a party, and then, you know, the Blues are out there for 2 hours celebrating on the ice. So many memories. Love this city. Love coming here because of the passion of the fans. And as a guy who grew up in New York, the Garden was this magical, mystique-filled place. And then to come here a lot and work is just still cool.
I have a question for Mike.
Go
Is
for
that
it.
okay, Chris?
I think we're over time, but you're good.
So when you watch Mike Tirico call a game, no matter the sport, the knowledge of the rules is off the charts.
Don't test me tonight.
So how much time have you spent with the NBA rulebook?
Okay, a decent amount. Yeah. I've read through it once. It did put me to sleep.
You've read through it once?
I read through it once.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I've read through it and then gone back over, you know, all the clear path stuff. And it's become so hard to follow because there are so many caveats to so many things that it's become a real challenge. Like a simplification is almost necessary, but that's happened in every sport because of replay, right? What are the triggers? What's this? What's that? Oh, this happened. Let's put this caveat. And then when you're down at like 0.6 on a rule, you go, come on, what are we doing? But I just feel like we don't have a lot to do, right? So we better know the rules of the game. And it's interesting to ramp back up to all the little stuff and try to get back to that. So I'm not there yet. So hopefully tonight I don't get buried.
No.
And the replay center helps us out.
You're going to do amazing. There have been multiple times where I've been watching Sunday Night Football and some like totally esoteric rule comes up. Nobody knows it except you. And Mike will say something and I'll be like, I got to brush up on my rule knowledge of the NBA. I do this every night. I feel like I need this.
But here's the great out that we now have in the NFL. Terry McAuley, 3-time Super Bowl referee. And the guy who's happiest about Terry being there is Collinsworth.
Yeah.
Because Chris would always, because you feel like you've got to know all the rules and just go, Terry, good call or bad call, right? And then you're off the hook. So
Terry, come out of here.
We're gonna have to see if Peacock has the budget for a rules official.
That's your job.
I don't know.
You can call on Forsberg if you have any questions.
Are you a rules nerd?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm great at it.
Do you go on the NBA site and go watch the video explanations?
Yes.
When they put the replay reviews from each night online, do you go back and watch those?
I sometimes do. Because
that's sad.
I know.
That's really sad.
Thank you.
There's a great library down here. Like you can go get a book and read.
Not the first time that I've heard that about my NBA fandom. I need everybody to go like, subscribe, check us out on the YouTube page. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
Drew.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.